Los Angeles, California, January 27, 1984, 6:45 p.m. Michael Jackson stood on the stage at the Shrine Auditorium, military-style jacket, sequined glove, surrounded by 3,000 extras hired to look like a concert audience. This wasn't a concert, it was a commercial. Pepsi, the biggest endorsement deal in history. $5 million, unprecedented for a musician. The concept: Michael performs. Pyrotechnics explode in sync with the music. Pepsi logo appears. Magic happens. They'd rehearsed it 6 times that day. Every time, perfect. Every explosion on cue. Every spark in the right place. Director called for one more take. The 7th. The final one. "Let's make this perfect," the director said. "Michael, you ready?" Michael nodded. He was 25 years old, peak of his career. Thriller album had just become the biggest-selling album of all time. He was the most famous person on earth. This commercial would air during the Grammy Awards. 100 million viewers, the whole world watching. Music started. Michael began performing, dancing, moving with the precision that made him famous. Behind him, above the stage, pyrotechnic charges were set to explode in sequence, timed to the music, choreographed down to the split second. The plan: charges would fire when Michael reached a specific mark on stage. He'd be 6 feet away when they exploded. Safe distance, tested multiple times, but someone made a mistake. The charges were set to fire at 1:48 in the song. They fired at 1:42. 6 seconds early, Michael was standing directly underneath. The explosion sent a shower of sparks straight down, onto his head, into his hair. His hair had been heavily treated with product, gel, spray, flammable chemicals to keep the style perfect under stage lights. It ignited instantly. Michael's hair was on fire, and he didn't know it. For 7 seconds, Michael Jackson continued performing, dancing, moving, smiling at the camera, while his head was literally burning. The extras in the audience saw it first, started screaming, pointing, but the music was so loud Michael couldn't hear them. The camera crew saw it, started yelling, "Michael, Michael, stop!" But Michael was in performance mode, focused, in the zone. The world disappeared when he performed. 7 seconds, his hair burning, his scalp cooking. Then he felt it. The pain hit him like electricity, sudden, overwhelming, unbearable. He stopped dancing, grabbed his head, collapsed to his knees. Crew members rushed onto the stage. Someone threw a jacket over his head, smothering the flames. The fire was out in seconds, but the damage was done. Michael was rushed to Brockman Memorial Hospital, emergency room, burn unit. Doctors assessed the damage. 2nd-degree burns across his scalp, 3rd-degree burns in several areas. The fire had burned through hair, through scalp, down to skull in some spots. They treated him, cleaned the burns, bandaged his head, prescribed pain medication, strong medication. Because the pain was severe, Michael stayed in the hospital for 3 weeks, underwent initial treatment, skin grafts, procedures to repair the damage. The physical burns healed, mostly. The scarring remained. Parts of his scalp where hair would never grow back. But something else started that day, something that wouldn't heal: chronic pain. The nerve damage from the burns never fully repaired. Michael would have headaches, scalp pain, sensitivity for the rest of his life. Manageable at first, Tylenol, ice packs, rest, but it never went away completely. And Michael couldn't rest, because he was Michael Jackson. Within a month of leaving the hospital, he was back to work. Victory tour with his brothers, 55 shows, 5 months, dancing, performing, under hot stage light, wearing hats and wigs to cover the scarring. The pain got worse. He went to doctors, pain management specialists. They prescribed stronger medication, painkillers, opioids, just to get through the tour, they said. Temporary, until you heal. But the pain didn't go away after the tour, because the nerve damage was permanent. Michael was still in pain, still taking medication, Doctors told him, "You're going to have to manage this for the long term. The damage is permanent. The pain is chronic. We can help you manage it, but it won't go away." Long-term pain management. That's a clinical term for you're going to need drugs for the rest of your life. And that's what happened. By 1987, during the Bad album and tour, Michael was taking prescription painkillers daily. Not recreationally, not for fun. For pain. Real, chronic, never-ending pain. Doctors prescribed them. Legal prescriptions. Legitimate medical need. But here's what happens with long-term painkiller use. Tolerance builds. The dose that worked in 1985 doesn't work in 1987, so you increase the dose. The dose that worked in 1987 doesn't work in 1990, so you increase it again. By 1993, during the Dangerous tour, Michael was taking high doses of prescription painkillers just to function, not to get high, to not be in pain. But the drugs had side effects. Fatigue, difficulty sleeping, anxiety. So doctors prescribed other drugs. Sleep aids, anti-anxiety medication. Now he was taking drugs to manage pain, drugs to help him sleep, drugs to manage anxiety caused by the other drugs. A pharmaceutical spiral, all because of burns from In 1993, Michael collapsed during a performance in Moscow. Dehydration, exhaustion, drug interaction. He was hospitalized, cancelled the rest of the tour, went to rehab. First time, acknowledged he had become dependent on prescription medications. Came out, tried to manage without drugs. But the pain was still there. Because the burn damage was still there, he went back to doctors. "I need something for the pain but not the pills. They're too dangerous." Doctors tried alternatives, injections, nerve blocks, physical therapy. Nothing worked as well as the pills. So Michael went back to the pills. By the late 1990s, Michael's pain management had become a full-time job. Multiple doctors, different prescriptions, trying to find the balance between managing pain and not becoming dependent. But dependency isn't a choice. It's a physical reality when you've been taking opioids for 15 years. His body needed the drugs. Not psychologically, physically. Stop taking them, and withdrawal begins. So Michael kept taking them, because the alternative was unbearable pain, or unbearable withdrawal. Michael was planning the Invincible album release and tour, but he was struggling. The pain was constant. The medications weren't working like they used to. And he'd developed a new problem, insomnia. He couldn't sleep, not because he didn't want to, because the pain wouldn't let him. Lying down hurt. Staying still hurt. His brain couldn't shut off because pain signals kept firing. He'd go days without sleep, then perform, then go days without sleep again. His body was breaking down. Doctors prescribed sleep aids, Ambien, Lunesta, strong medications. They helped sometimes, but not consistently. By 2008, Michael was desperate. He was planning the This Is It tour, 50 concerts. His comeback, massive production, the whole world watching. But he couldn't sleep. And if he couldn't sleep, he couldn't rehearse. And if he couldn't rehearse, he couldn't perform. He needed sleep, real sleep, deep sleep, the kind that lets your body recover. He found a doctor willing to give him something stronger. Propofol. Propofol is not a sleep aid. It's an anesthetic. The drug they use in hospitals to knock you out for surgery. You don't sleep on propofol. You're unconscious. Your brain shuts down. Your body shuts down. You need monitoring. Medical equipment. Trained staff. It's dangerous. It's not meant for home use. It's not meant for sleep. But Michael was desperate. And Dr. Conrad Murray was willing to provide it. Every night, Murray would administer propofol to Michael in his bedroom through an IV, turn him off like a light switch, give him 8 hours of unconsciousness, then wake him up with other drugs, get him ready for rehearsal. This wasn't medical care. This was chemical management of a body that had been in crisis for 25 years. Michael had rehearsal for This Is It. Final rehearsal before the tour began. Crew members said he was in great form, energized, focused, dancing, singing, the best he'd been in weeks. This is it, he told the crew. This is the comeback. He left the rehearsal at midnight, went home to his rented mansion in Holmby Hills. He needed to sleep. Big day tomorrow. Press conference, more rehearsals. Dr. Murray was there. Set up the IV. Administered the propofol. Michael went unconscious. But something went wrong. Maybe the dose was too high. Maybe Michael's body, weakened by 25 years of drug use, couldn't handle it. Maybe Murray wasn't monitoring him properly. Michael stopped breathing. Murray tried to revive him. CPR, rescue breathing. Called 911. Paramedics arrived. Tried to resuscitate. Couldn't. Michael Jackson was pronounced dead at 2:26 p.m. on June 25, 2009. He was 50 years old. Cause of death: acute propofol intoxication. He'd been using propofol to sleep because he was in chronic pain and couldn't sleep naturally. He was in chronic pain because of nerve damage from burns. The burns happened on January 27, 1984. 25 years, 5 months, 29 days. From fire to death. The coroner's report listed the cause of death as propofol, accidental overdose. But that's not the full story. Michael didn't start using propofol for fun. He used it because he needed to sleep. He needed to sleep because he was in pain. He was in pain because of burns that never healed. Burns from an accident in 1984. 15 seconds of fire. 25 years of consequences. Dr. Conrad Murray was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. He served 2 years in prison. But Murray didn't start the chain. He was just the last link. The chain started with a pyrotechnics malfunction, a 6-second timing error, a spark that fell in the wrong place. Nobody meant for it to happen. The crew didn't want to hurt Michael. The pyrotechnics team had done this 1,000 times. It was an accident, but accidents have consequences. And sometimes those consequences take 25 years to fully unfold. After Michael died, investigators found medical records, prescriptions from over a dozen doctors, pain management dating back to 1984, an unbroken chain of treatment. For the same injury, for 25 years, Michael had told friends, "The pain never stops. Not completely. I've learned to live with it. But some days, it's unbearable." He told his mother, Catherine, "The Pepsi accident changed my life. Nothing was ever the same after that." She didn't know what he meant at the time. She thought he meant his career, his fame. He meant his body, his health, his future. The fire lasted 15 seconds, but it burned for 25 years. Michael Jackson's death certificate says he died from propofol intoxication. But if you follow the chain back far enough, you find the real cause. January 27, 1984. Shrine Auditorium. A pyrotechnics malfunction. 15 seconds of fire that started a 25-year chain reaction, ending in death. This is what chronic pain does. It doesn't just hurt. It transforms everything. It makes you dependent on medications you never wanted to take. It makes you desperate for relief you can't find. It makes you willing to try dangerous things just to feel normal for a few hours. And sometimes, 25 years later, it kills you. Michael Jackson didn't die because he was reckless. He died because he was in pain for 25 years. and finally found something that stopped the pain, even if that something was dangerous, even if that something could kill him. When you're in pain for 25 years, you'll do anything to make it stop. Anything, even if it kills you.